Hello, hello, hello. Happy Monday. I'm excited to be here with you. I'll give you a second to get in and I will get ready. But I got some juicy bits for you today. It's your girl Saran here on Chaos to Come, where we talk about all things finance. We talk about taking you from can't handle any obstacle set to control, access, and access to abundance, legacy creation, and money mastery. So I have something for you today, the three top wealth killers. So I want to tell you today, I want to start by telling you this. Welcome. But I want to talk to you today about my friend Mary. My friend Mary is what you call a juggler. Now, she's not in the circus, but she's a juggler. And she's one of those people that when you think about, she's constantly juggling just the regular activities of life. And I know many of us can probably relate to she's a mom. She has a bustling career. She has to keep up with the house. She has to keep up. She stays involved in her church. She's involved in the community. She's a city girl at heart, so she loves to go out every now and then with her friends. But what really lies beneath the surface with her is she's probably the happiest person you know when you walk into the room. But right below the surface, she's got a problem. Her finances are in chaos. They are a mess. You mean what? Why? And Mary could be anyone, but Mary today, her finances are a mess because she got divorced. Love of her life. They never did any type of prenuptial agreement. So she was bound by whatever the state laws were for divorce. So they had to split everything, the bills and the assets. And so some of the bills weren't really hers, but she had to take half. And so she's bound by that now. And so she's trying to figure out how to get out of the debt that came from divorce. She's trying to figure out how to pay off her student loans. She's trying to still figure out how to do college and, working through the messiness of divorce with and co-parenting. But she's still the happiest person you know. She's still the bomb. But oh, by the way, she still has her own student loans. She's only 40, so she still got her own student loans. And now she's thinking about how is she going to retire, pay off student loans, pay for her kids to go to college, pay down her own debt, keep up with her credit cards, and build while she builds a career and raise these kids. And I know so many of us today on that are either watching me live or watching the replay. Can you relate to that? Can you relate to any of the challenges that my friend Mary is having? Now, let's be clear. I changed the name to protect the innocent. And so her name isn't really Mary, but Mary could be anybody. I know there was a time in my life I was juggling a lot. I could relate to most of these things. But the thing is at the end of the day, we don't have to do it by ourselves, especially for us women. The challenges that we face as African American women is even greater just because at the end of the day, our economic justice is so disparate because we're making less money. But today, I want to come to you and talk to you about the top wealth killers for us. And I just gave you that story because I need you to know that this is a real thing. It's not just numbers, it's not just quotes, it's not just talking heads, right? But y'all know I like to give you something good for the week and give you an affirmation to help you bring some joy into this process as you become who you're becoming with your finances and you grow. So to this week's money manifestation is I am abundant and wealthy in all places and spaces. And I'm typing it in the chat for you so that you can write it down for yourself. And repeat that to yourself. I'm a big affirmations person. I give you guys one a week, but I actually write 10 a day for myself to remind myself who I am, to remind myself the power that's within me, and to keep me focused through the challenges. But I give you guys just one of them. So enjoy. That's your gift today. But let's talk about some of these wealth killers. I'm wondering if anybody's here watching live can take a guess in the chat and let me know, what do you think one of the top wealth killers are? I see you, Miss Sherelle. What do you think one of the top wealth killers are? Because I think we everyone can define it as something different. We make up something in our heads because you personally might feel like, you know what, my wealth killers are taxes and inflation. Somebody else might say my credit card debt, my student loan. Somebody else might say kids, daycare, and private school. What are the wealth killers that you think are the top three that I'm going to talk about today? Because there are a bunch of them. And the thing is we have to dig down and figure out what they are for us. I'm just giving you an idea of things to think about. So I'm going to talk about three today, and I got a bonus one I'm going to pull out for you. The first wealth killer I'm going to talk to you about tonight is debt. Debt, debt, debt. Not just any debt, but unsecured debt, debt that's not making you any money, right? Because I'm not against debt if it's to buy assets, if it's to for your business to do things to help you elevate and to move forward. But I'm talking about debt on things like food, fashion, and fun. We bought clothes, we went out and had fun, we ate the money. Now we're paying 30% on it, right? We're not gaining any money, we're not waiting on a return on investment on it. It's just debt. And I don't say that to make you feel bad or to feel guilty, but when you know better, you do better. Start thinking about your debt in different ways. And I've talked about this before, but debt doubles based on your interest rate. And so if your interest rate is whatever your interest rate is, I want you to write this down. If you take the number 72 and divide that by the interest rate you're paying on your credit card, that is going to tell you how long it's going to take your debt to double. The lower the number, the faster it doubles. So if the answer comes back and says 6, that means your debt's going to double every 6 years. And that's why you can look at your credit card statement and think, but I pay my payment every month. Why is this debt not going down? I make a little extra payment, but it's still not going down. You're just paying extra interest. And so we got to get our hands around the debt. But first, we got to get our minds around our debt mentality, our understanding of why we go into debt, thinking about what we're doing with the debt. Now, if it was an emergency and you had to use it and you didn't have a plan, you had to put it there. I see you, relevant television. That's right. The 3 F's: food, fashion, and fun. But getting a strategic plan, a roadmap, a layout to get rid of that debt. And I've talked about this all the time, but when we think about it as Black women, and Michelle Obama said this, but the economic disparities that exist for us as Black women, they're not just numbers. They're the reflection of systematic barriers that have been in place for centuries. And so now those barriers have been there for centuries, but we're also adding new barriers with access to credit and not really understanding and using the credit wisely and using it for things like going to the next level in finance. Now, one of the other debts is student loans. And if you haven't seen it already, but on Thursday at 12:30, I'm dropping a dope podcast episode with a wonderful young lady, Tamika Jones-Tabs from Philadelphia, on how to get rid of that student loan debt. None of us had any idea what we were doing when we signed for those student loans in that financial aid office, because we cried to get the loan, right? we cried standing in the line thinking we weren't going to be able to stay on campus and go to school. We cried at the financial aid lady's desk trying to get the loan because we wanted to be in school. We got the loan. We went to school. We got the degree. We had fun. We used the refund. We did all the things, because we had to be in school. We needed the education. We absolutely needed the education. But nobody really told us what it meant to sign on the dotted line when they said, at the loan interview. I remember being in a big room at my university, Harris Hall, when they were talking about they gave the whole education on the loans. It's just going to be 10 years. Just 10 years. I ain't gonna lie, I graduated in 1998, but y'all know I'm 35, so go with it. I graduated in 1998. And thankfully, Uncle Joe Biden was able to forgive those loans. I've been out of school way more than 20, 25 years, but I still had the student loans. Why? Because of the interest doubling on that debt over time. And guess what? All of my peers, many of my peers that were in school with me at the same time, either at my university or other universities, guess what? They still have the debt. They're still trying to figure out how to get through the system to get rid of the debt. And that's one of those things that it sounds really simple. It sounds like a real sweet deal up front, but it really, really isn't, because that 10 years turned into 15 years. That 15 years turned into 20. That 20 turned into 25 years. And what happens is, hold on, it's my phone. Um, and what happens is we're not able to catch up because we have these payments that we have to make. And so we got to get around that. And that debt is stealing from our future. It's stealing from our retirement plan. And I watched a video today, and I got to go find the source of the video, but it was from one of the congressional hearings. And one of the gentlemen, he answered the question, and he might as well have just said, "We ain't paying." And the person asked him, what are we going to do about Social Security? How are people going to get access to their Social Security money? And he was like, I don't know. We already $2 or $3 trillion in debt. The fastest that money goes in the system is as fast as we're spending it. And I don't know how we're going to tell people in 10 or 20 years from now how they're going to live off $2,000 or $3,000 a month. I mean, I don't know anybody it's tough to live off $2,000 or $3,000 a month now in the current time. So 20 years from now, when inflation goes up and the costs change, how are we going to be able to live off that? And that's why they keep saying that Social Security is going away. It's not that it's going away. It's that the money is being spent by our government leadership. Now, I'm not bashing them. I don't have anything against them. These are the facts that are coming out in some of the hearings and the discussions. And so that's why we have to take control. And that's why it becomes this juggling act, like I talked about with Mary earlier, is trying to figure out how to juggle all those things, right? And the one thing I didn't mention when I was telling you about Mary, Mary's also trying to live a good life. Mary's also trying to enjoy the small things. She's trying to take care of herself. She's trying to spend time with girlfriends, trying to spend time with whomever special in her life. She's trying to spend time out in the community serving and doing the things that she loves. But the debt keeps you from being able to do certain things. I know we think some things are free, but they're really not free, because even if you got to pay gas just to get there, it still wasn't free. And so that's why we have to really start thinking and digging deep into our mindsets about spending and being strategic about spending. Again, I told you, I'm not against debt if it's going to give you the ability to level up. It's going to be able to help you generate some income. And absolutely, if it's an emergency, it's a dire situation, and you got to use debt, then you got to do what you got to do. But the thing is that we got to be strategic about it. It's not the excitement of, let me just swipe because this is in my cart. Oh, that was really cute. It came across my Facebook feed or my Instagram feed. The reality is, and you're watching me because I probably came up on your feed, but the reality is our social media and things like that, they're pulling our attention, and we're doing things without as much thought as we used to. And that goes into why our debt becomes such a wealth killer, because now we're creating debt unconsciously. And then we turn around and look 6 months later, like, where did this $5,000 come from on my credit card? I didn't really do that. And so that debt also lends to why a lot more of Black women are starting business. We're starting businesses. The fastest group of entrepreneurs in the United States right now are Black women. But we receive less than 1% of any type of venture capital funding. And that's according to the Digital Undivide. I didn't make that up. Those are my numbers, right? But we're starting businesses, but we're still, again, having those economic disparities. We're not getting the support to go after and really build that business to a six-figure plus business, unless you're getting coached by different people. But coaching isn't free, right? And at the end of the day, the average small business owned by a minority is making less than $25,000 a year. That's nice extra money to sustain you, but a portion of that is going back into the business. The other wealth killer is losing a loved one, is death. The other wealth killer is death. And why? Why is that? Because so many of us, and I hate to be this person, so many of us think we're going to live forever. I just want somebody, and I say this to people all the time, and they think that I'm crazy, but I just want to meet the person who has figured out how to get out of life alive, because that person should be like a quadrillionaire. How do you get out alive? We don't. And what we do is we don't plan. And what happens is so many people have these weird suspicions and they think if they go and do the paperwork, they do a will, they do a trust, they do the life insurance, they do any of those things that are required, um, that something's going to happen to them. But the reality is making sure you take care of that paperwork is the ultimate act of love for your loved ones, because you're saying to them, I don't want you to be worried about if you're going to lose this house when I'm not here anymore. I don't want you to be worried about if the people are going to come get your car and you need to hide it in the garage. You're saying, I don't want you to be worried about any type of paperwork if I'm not here. Oh, by the way, I don't want you in the street asking nobody for nothing for me because I didn't take care of my paperwork. Don't be embarrassing me in the street, as my nana used to say. Don't be putting my business in the street. And so doing those things is not shouldn't be fear-based, right? Now there's some strategic things we're gonna talk about that. I talk about that all day. But at the end of the day, we have to be protecting our loved ones. You got a wife, you got a husband, you got kids, you got grandkids. You don't want them stressed out financially when they're already grieving the loss of your presence. They're already trying to figure out who they will be now without you. And so that's one of the things. And what happens is the kids have to pay for these funerals. I have a personal testimony. And unfortunately, I graduated college in 1998. Again, I'm still 35. Y'all better go with it. And 6 months after I graduated in May, but in December, my mother was killed in a car accident. She had no life insurance. She didn't have any assets to transfer. There were all these other things going on. And guess what? I was the oldest. And so what did I have to do? I had just started working my job. And as a good college student, I got a second. I had two jobs because I was trying to figure out how to pay student loans in 1998 early. And all the money I had saved for 6, 7, 8 months after coming out of college, I had to use to put together her service, right? So now here I am grieving, and I'm having to empty out my bank account to make sure that she has a decent send off. And I don't say that to guilt anyone. I say that to say that it's a real thing. And at the end of the day, it's something that could be prevented if we have the education. And doing that, make sure that you don't have to leave someone in that position. The other thing we should really think about is that a lot of Black women, while Black women get breast cancer less than white women, we are more likely to die from it. We are 40% more likely to die from it. And that's according to the American Cancer Center. Again, not my statistics. And so we have to prepare, we have to have these things in place to be able to take care of ourselves. And included in that factor is we have less access to healthcare, because even as recent, which is only 4 or 5 years ago, in 2019, 11% of Black women were uninsured compared to 8% of white women who were uninsured. And that was according to the Kaiser Foundation. And so not having insurance also adds to the expense of what we're doing when we come into the living and what we're doing. And then back to my friend Mary, the third wealth killer, third wealth killer, divorce. Divorce is stressful just in general. Divorce is stressful because this person you said you were going to love and cherish for the rest of your life, you're going to be together forever and ever. You dance to, one of your favorite love songs, and you did the two-step, you did everything you could. You invited all your family, all your enemies, all his family. You invited everybody. But now here we are getting a divorce. But we bought houses, we bought cars, we got kids, we got bank accounts together, we got bills together, and all those things lead to wealth killers, because most people who come out of a divorce have to start over from scratch. And starting over from scratch means that you have lost the power of your compound interest of growing your money. In some instances, you may even have to split retirement accounts that were built together. And so having certain things in place, and I get it, you love him, you love her, I'm in love. Get your paperwork right. That's all. Because if you don't get your paperwork right, there is an automatic prenuptial agreement already in place. And that's whatever the laws of that state are that you live in that you got married. So what those laws are will automatically apply to you. And then you'll add the expense of a lawyer to go through that process and do all the different things. So think about that. I have too many stories, story upon story, and I have a colleague I may bring on to talk about it, but to talk about her experience with going through divorce. But she's thriving, she's doing amazing, but it took time because she wasn't sure what to do. You have to have financial planning post divorce to figure out what your next steps are, what your future is going to look like. You're going to have to figure out how to have some type of mediation in the process. And on top of, again, emotional distress. Why is it that when the wealth killers also are tied to emotional pain and distress? Oh, is anybody noticing the pattern? They kind of go together. And what happens is we're emotional, we're stressed, we're sad, we're grieving, we're having one of the biggest problems of our lives, and our money's jacked up. Oh my God. You talk about a recipe for madness or chaos, that's where we have to really just take the time to prepare. Nobody goes into marriage planning for divorce, but go into it with a real plan that says this is what we're going to do together. And if, God forbid, 10 years from now, 15 years from now, we decide we don't want to do it together anymore, this is how we want to move forward with things, especially if you're a business owner, because yes, it is a crazy conversation, but you have to have the conversation and you have to put it on paper while you still love each other, right? While you still love each other, plan. Because if you own businesses, could you imagine if, God forbid, you had a divorce? And I was listening to, I think it was my rich BFF. She was, I can't remember her real name, but that's her Instagram or whatever. So I won't take credit from her. But she was talking about planning for her marriage. And she said one of the things that they did was she made sure that any income from the business they split in their prenuptial agreement. But the ownership of the business was 100% hers because she didn't want to go potentially be in a divorce scenario with this person you used to love, and now this person's on the board of her business and she's trying to make this business decisions with someone who now hates her. And so we got to be thinking like that, unfortunately, not in a negative way. That's why I say making the plan while you still love each other, because you're going to both give each other as much as possible and try to create as much uh, peace, because we don't want to create anything negative, but making sure that you have that. And I got a bonus for you. And I said 3 wealth killers, but I got one bonus. That bonus is disability. Disability is the one minority class that they say that anyone can join anywhere, anytime, any place. Any one of us can become disabled for any reason, anywhere. And so we have to be protected and prepared for something like that, because not being able to do that could mean financial devastation. Actually, in the financial world, disability, they quote it this way. They said disability can sometimes be worse than death, because at least when you're dead, you don't have any problems, you don't have any debt. Disability will put you in a place where you probably can't work, where which means you won't be able to earn, which means you won't have the money to take care of your living expenses. And it just becomes a snowball effect. And a lot of people think, oh, I'll just apply for Social Security disability. Well, the last time I checked, that process takes about 18 to 24 months. What are you going to do in the meantime? And that's why it's important to have these conversations with financial professionals like myself and people on my team, to make sure that you have a plan for all the what ifs of life, and you're not just out here, free willy. It's time for us to, how the rap song go, regulators. It's time for us to mount up and get ready to get our stuff together. And that really is what it is. The call to action to each one of you is, if you don't have things in place, do not feel bad. Don't fret. Don't beat yourself up. Don't make yourself feel bad because you didn't do it. Some things you knew, some things you didn't, but take action now. Taking action now will get you in the place where you need to be. But waiting longer is going to keep you in a more vulnerable position for much longer. So taking action now. So this is what I'll say to you. My call to action to you today is reach out to me. Set up an appointment with me if you'd like, meetsaran.com. If you want to join one of my private communities or join one of my challenges that are coming up, you can go to joinsaran.com. And so they're two easy websites. They all have my name in it, so I'm easy to find. But be sure to like and subscribe if you're watching on YouTube. If you're watching in one of my Facebook groups, you're going to have to subscribe to YouTube. Facebook changed the rules. I won't be able to go live in here come early April. So you'll have to find me on YouTube when I go live. But make sure to stay connected. If you need resources, if you need help, book a 15-minute, a free 15-minute consultation. And that way we can see if there's something we can do to help you. Because the biggest mistake we make is not getting support. Because and I'll speak for myself. I don't want y'all to think I'm talking about you. I'll speak for myself. I grew up the oldest child of 8 children. I was always super independent. I was in charge of everything. When things went wrong, I had to figure it out. And so as an adult, I tend to try to figure everything out on my own when I need to ask questions and need to get help. And so I'm training myself to, as soon as I need help, ask for help. And I'm saying to you, unlearn some of those skills that you learn where you have to do everything on your own, and just reach out and ask and see what help you can get. Everyone's not going to charge you $3 million just to talk to them for 15 minutes to get some idea what direction you could be going and how you could get some type of help. And maybe you can't do the whole plan, but maybe you can do 10% of the plan, and now you're 10% closer to where you need to be. So I'm your girl, Saran. Peace, love, and light. Let's get your money right. Bye. See you next week.